Alright guys, welcome back to Big Leg Hot Rods. Today, this video is going to include more work on my 63 Falcon wagon. I went to a car show recently and developed a cooling issue and narrowed it down to I put this stinking fan on backwards. I changed out recently a mechanical fan to a mechanical fan from electric because I had a cooling issue. I think 10-inch electric fans on it, and the car would still run warm or hot. So I told the mechanical, put the mechanical on it, and I put a pusher back in there. So hoping that would help it, and then added a new shroud. I'll tighten it up a little bit. To a buddy of mine who has a 69 Camaro, and he's just running a straight mechanical fan on his and does not have any electric fans on it. And he's running 190 with the air conditioning on. I don't have air conditioning. I'm still running hot. I swear I thought I was going to blow a head gasket going down the road. My gauge said 250, and I wasn't in a spot where I could stop. So I kept on going, hoping it would stay relatively cool. Or, well, I'd hate to say relatively cool because 250 is already smoking. But got to the show, got it parked, got it cooled down, and made it back home with it creeping over 200 once I pulled in the driveway. But the other thing I looked at under here, I don't really know where it is. It's just down below the water pump somewhere. You can see some brown, I can see a little brown stain under there, right there between the belt. A coolant leak. So what I'm going to have to do, I've got some water pump gasket material from an old kit. I'm just going to tear this front drive off. I'm going to tear the shroud off, tear the fan off, flip the fan blade, so I'll mark it, and try to see if I can get this cooling issue solved, because it's really irritating. I can't stand a car that overheats. It's not fun. So hopefully that'll solve my issue. But I've got a lot to take apart before I can even get to where the issue is. And hopefully once I get the drive system off, I can see where the leak's coming from, and it'll be pretty obvious where the stained water's coming from. But I also have a leak on my plug here on the intake manifold. I plugged up the heater core for the summer. I need to just put a valve on it and tidy up the hoses. That was kind of what I wanted to do anyway, but I ran out of time, so I just plugged it in hopes that it would hold, and it didn't. So I'll tear that back out and redo it. But in the meantime, I'll stop blabbing. In the meantime, I'll stop blabbing, and we'll get this torn apart and get started on it. So since this radiator obviously doesn't come in this car factory, this is out of a Fox body. So I had to make this custom bracket and adapt this shroud. The shroud was actually made for a different vehicle. It came up with, I think a guy had it for a Jeep. Obviously you can tell this shroud doesn't quite fit the radiator. I've still got quite a bit over here, but I don't feel like that's my problem. I feel like it's just, well, obviously if I put a radiator fan on there that's running backwards, that's pretty stupid. That's just me being in a hurry, putting it together, getting frustrated, because it is kind of a pain to put it together. But hopefully, I made some mods to this shroud, and I made it a two-piece shroud. So if down in here, I put a little L bracket, I'll pull it apart and show. It's kind of hard to see in the car. But makes it a little easier to disassemble and reassemble. So. Put these screws back in here so I don't lose them. There's an easier way to do this. It's called power tools. No, that one's not long enough. There you go. So it's just two little L brackets, and obviously the one on the bottom is an L bracket as well to accept that. So it just sits on a little shelf, and you just run some little speed screws in there, and you're on your way. All right, I think that'll make it a little easier. I can get in here and take this fan blade off and not have to take the radiator out. It's still a little snug, but I don't have to take that bottom shroud off either. I'll move this fella so I don't hit the car. I had this fan was originally from this is the same engine, but I didn't have the reverse rotation serpentine drive on it. I just had a regular V drive on it, V belt, and that's a standard rotation. So when I went to the converted it over, I mean this has been a long time since I've converted it over, but I just stuck this fan back on there the way I knew it came off and didn't even think. It never even crossed my mind to, but actually I think it was my dad at the car show. He said, well, you know your fan's on backwards. I said, are you serious? So little did I know I inadvertently put it on backwards, but I'm sure that's happened before. I'm sure it's not the first time someone's done that. It's not the first time I'm going to make a mistake. So, you know, it is what it is. Could have seriously damaged the engine though, but thankfully it's got iron heads on it. They are a lot less susceptible to warpage than good old aluminum heads. But not very easy to get to, that bottom bolt. I think I'm going to take that belt off because that pulley is kind of cattywampus in there. Cause that problem. There we go. Should have done it beforehand. Now I can rotate the pump around. All right, that's the fan. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. And I'm gonna mark it with a little Sharpie mark. Till then, might be a week or two before I can finalize all this, because between this and work, I only have a couple hours a night to work on it. Okay, get this dude out of the way. Come on, here we go. Okay, I still don't see any strong evidence of the leak on the front here. I do see an old leak. Maybe where the water pump, the inlet for the radiator hose is, but let's see if I can show it a little bit on camera. A little more evidence right through here of coolant leak, and down through there. So let's see if I can figure out. All that brown stuff's obviously where the water's coming from, but it looks like it's coming from under there maybe. I really think it's the gasket, because it's on the backside too, where that dipstick is, and on the head there. It may have just sprayed. It's hard to say when the water gets hot like that. It sprays everywhere, so it's really hard to narrow down where it could possibly be. But we're going to keep digging, and we're going to find it. should be everything for the AC pump. Bust a hole in the radiator there. It's unreal how much those accessories add bulk, how much bulk they add to the front end of this motor. It's a small, relatively small engine, but just a little 302. But those accessories really do add a lot of bulk to the front end here. Try to take it all off at one big chunk rather than 7 or 8, but it's hard to see the bolts even with light. Got one there, 1, 2. This alternator is actually one of those 3G units, which is kind of an old school upgrade for these cars. Not this car in particular, but the Fox body, because they were known for their crappy alternator and charging system. So, just did a little searching on the internet and found out how to wire it, and it's really pretty easy. I'll go into detail about it, but it's been a long time since I did it. I'll probably tell you wrong. So, anyway, one thing I'm going to do is just, the alternator's off. I'm just going to go ahead and get it off of this bracket because it's adding a lot of weight. And I don't have to swing that around through this hose and all that good stuff. So we'll just take it off. Yeah. That's it. So while I got all this blown apart, I may take these brackets and just kind of give them a little spit shine. I'm not really into chromy, shiny, but I do like a good natural finish on the aluminum, so I might come up with something like that and do what I like. Oh, I think I see a culprit. It turns out is the bypass hose on that water pump to thermostat housing. On the bottom of it has a split right alongside the clamp. And I also noticed that I didn't have it all the way on, so it kind of put it in a bind and caused it to leak right there. So, made a mess, and the results of not using antifreeze in your engine is a nasty mess. And that little mess down there was just spraying off down to the bottom. Kind of ticks me off a little bit because I didn't have to take all this stuff off, but now that I got it all out of the way, I can get this cleaned up and make it look a lot better. And it was getting a little grimy in there anyway. You can see a little bit of oil just from driving it. It is what it is. It's a driver, like I said. But I'll get that cleaned up and we'll move on. So I got the water pump mess. So I got the mess cleaned up from the water spillage there. And it looks like it's been happening over time quite a bit. So I don't really have much more doubt that it was that bypass hose. Obviously I can see a little bit there in the heater block off hose, but I just put those on there. So obviously they're leaking a little bit. So I'll take those off and kind of try to fix that up as well. But I've got a piece of hose. I'm gonna try to make it work. If not, I'll just go to a local auto parts store and get whatever hose I need. The bypass hose, it's not an uncommon part. So, and I'll get it sprayed down with some degreaser and get it cleaned and just looking a little better. You can tell where that water's just been everywhere. It makes a mess. But I'll wrap it up for the night and try to get some parts, and we'll see what we come up with. All right, folks. Just wanted to do a quick recap on the Falcon project here. I explained it before. I went ahead and replaced this hose here, the bypass hose for the coolant. And that's where I discovered I had a leak. I had a split on the back side of that little hose and caused a lot of a lot of overheating issues. I really haven't had the time to drive it longer distance than just through the neighborhood and get it warmed up. It seems to be doing okay. I can recall it jumped up in temp a lot quicker before. Obviously, you're losing coolant. The systems aren't pressurized and all that. And in theory, I guess, causes it to not have the cooling capacity it should have. I really think this radiator is plenty big enough. It's just got to get some airflow through it. So mechanical fan's back in place and is in the right direction. And I just cleaned up all these brackets, went over these the alternator and the pump, AC pump and the idler pulley and all that. I painted all the pulleys and just cleaned it up while I had it out. Why not? Went over that with a wire brush and shined it up a little bit. But it's all back together now. Same way I took it apart. I didn't figure I'd need to bore you with putting it all back together. It's the same steps, just reverse. But so far so good. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll try to take it out on a little drive and see if the temperature rises. It's going to be a scorcher anyway, so that'll be the ultimate test. It'll probably get warm. It always has. I think these cars have notoriously always ran a little warm, but it is what it is. As long as it doesn't jump up to 250 degrees again and blow the engine up, I think I'll be okay. I'm hoping, between 180 and 200, I think the engine can live decent there. It seems to run fine no matter, how much abuse I put it through. But it is what it is. Like I said, we'll do the testing, and I just wanted to show that I got it all back together and wrapped it up. So we get the car put up for the night and get you caught up next time we start back up on the 62 project, and we'll see if we can make some progress on that. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching. Some of this stuff's boring, but this is what I do, tinker and work, full-time job, so it is what it is. But I appreciate you guys watching Big Lake Hot Rods, and we'll catch you next time.